Welcome back to another episode of Alive Partner TV. I am your host, Dr. Mario Torres-Leon, and I am beyond excited for today's gathering and this interview that I'm having with a very, very special community member, somebody who's become a dear friend of mine along the past almost half a year now. Somebody who has been intimately involved in participating and giving in the community, somebody who's brought extreme generosity with her presence and her wisdom, and with the vulnerability with which she shares some of the parts of her life which have dramatically shifted her way of living, her alignment with purpose in a very different way. And not only that, but going into committed action with those callings to live from that place. Today, I have the privilege and honor of sharing with all of you my dear friend, Tina Marie Bertoli, who is going to be sharing a little bit about the incredible journey that she's had in this new edition of the Human Power Series. And when I say Human Power Series, I really mean it because Tina is truly what, in my estimation and experience of her, is truly a powerful woman, a powerful human being. The way that she has embraced the different facets and gifts that her life has presented to her, the way that she has alchemized a very intense and challenging health experience, and ultimately going from being an aspiring actress in Hollywood to following a true path of discovery and self-connection to ultimately being in the process of strengthening and congealing her practice as a healthcare reminder and healer through her breath work. So today we have a very special show, and I am delighted and super honored to share with you my dear friend, Tina Marie Bertoli. Tina, welcome to the Human Power Series.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me back and for that beautiful intro. Uh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well deserved. Well, Tina, a lot of people have struggles of different kinds. It's just, being human will bring that element to the experience. We will be challenged along the way. And one of the things that really highlights your personal power, your spiritual power, your health power, is how what in the eyes of many could be life defining or life ending moments, you have been able to embrace that, learn to do so, and ultimately use those moments as, pun intended, true launch pads in your life. Can you speak to some of that background, Tina, and how this journey started to be weaved in the incredible and magical ways that it has and you have for yourself and for the people that you're serving through your work?
Yeah, sure. Even just listening to you speak and tuning in of the different, aspects of my life, what really stands out in this moment are the dark nights of the soul, the challenges, the major obstacles that were the catalysts each and every time for my healing, my greatness, something so much higher than anything that I could ever imagine. From when I was an actress and thought that that was my identity, even though I didn't had no idea who I was, which is funny because then I'm just playing different roles, right? Growing up in a household, where my dad always said, "Be yourself." The irony, like, of just never really knowing what that meant. And so moving from New York out to Hollywood and discovering fairly quickly, whoa, like I am not like the film business was so not for me, even though I tried to make it work. And because at the time it was, if I'm not an actress, I don't know who I am. So it
Mm.
was again that identity crisis. Long story short, with that, when I finally had the courage enough to let it go, because it wasn't serving me and the business was so dark and it just didn't fit, which was a lot of me holding on. But when I finally let it go, I had my probably my first dark night of the soul, which is what led me to meditation and healing And then I became that healer and intuitive and had a beautiful career. But again, not realizing I'm identifying myself as now I have a new title. So I must know who I am. And I'm receiving, money, and I'm traveling the world and I'm teaching and beautiful things. And I had a strong spiritual practice. And there were moments, obviously, where I was evolving, but there was always something missing throughout it all. And that was me, like the real true essence of me. And so it's not surprising to me now that in 2020, I would get the words from my doctor: sit down, you have aggressive breast cancer. This is serious. And it was even in that moment, as I say it, I'll never forget where I was. I didn't hear anything that he said after that because that was the last possible thing that I thought could ever happen. Not even just cancer, aggressive. And then to see in the days and weeks that would follow the fear around everyone when they saw the pathology, it was like, and in the midst of all of that and all of the fear and the terror, you said before something about being human. When I think back, I really did gift myself. I don't know if I realized that it was a gift at the time, the being human, because at that point it was like, what do I have to lose? And so I let myself be angry. I cried my eyes out on the bathroom floor. I really was just so in the moment with whatever was there, not really understanding it as much as now I can look back and kind of see an awakening that was happening. But it was really that deepest dark night of the soul, which is so beyond, I want to say, a dark night of the soul, because I was afraid of death a lot of my life from a little girl. So it's like here I am face to face with it. And I learned from the beginning that surrender was the only choice I really had. And when I really started to consciously get behind everything with research, with my partner Billy, with getting a team together, with really coming home to my body and my heart, it wasn't easy. It was long and brutal. And through almost 2.5 years of that, I've stepped into something so massive. And I continue to, by feeling, by being in my body, because I didn't realize so much of my life I was out of my body. I didn't realize that was I was a really great teacher at all these healing modalities and concepts and somewhat taking them in or on, but there was always, I believe, not a full embodiment. That is what my practice is now.
Thank you for sharing that. This is extremely powerful because as a physician and you, somebody who's made a patient and now in the healing arts too, truly devoted to that as part of your continuum of the things that you've been evolving into. One of the things that I have seen over 30 years of practice in medicine is thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I have cared one way or the other as they have been facing a new diagnosis of the magnitude, the profound impact of what cancer, for example, may be, among others. And you're saying something that is incredibly insightful and very, very powerful and extremely vulnerable to admit to the fact that you had been already in this spiritual deepening sort of practices of your own and being exposed to doing this and being schooled on them, and in other regards teaching other people in different parts of the world and so on, but having this cataclysmic moment in your life, this massive break on the road as you knew it, where fortunately for you, you tapped into this wisdom or allowed this wisdom to come in, this awareness to come in, that part of that journey that you had had in your own personal development, spiritual growth, and so on had been outside of your body. And I think that's a beautiful realization, not to be judged, but to be contemplated and received as a huge gift, because what started to really morph and change for you was that at some point you started to become aware of the disconnect, or
Yeah.
perhaps another way to say it, the absence of the awareness of the component of what the body could bring to your practice and to exalting yourself, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak to how that started to happen, Tina? Because many people who may be watching this right now, I'm sure a subset of our community struggles in different regards with illnesses, physical illnesses.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things that I have witnessed as a physician and also as a human who it falls ill sometimes too, of course, is this notion of despair, loneliness, hopelessness, helplessness that we experience because the physical body is just not up to par with what the mind wants to do.
Right.
And perhaps that speaks to this dark night of the soul, this moment where it's like the end of the end of the end, whether it's a really bad flu or something of far greater significance and implications, such as a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah. And it's interesting because so much of my life was going, 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 doing, thinking that I had had it all under control, so to speak. And it wasn't until it was a full year pretty much bedridden.
Wow.
And I never thought that I would do conventional treatments, but in the midst of the actual pathology, the high growth rate of the cancer, with two integrative oncologists and a Chinese herbalist who was an expert in triple negative breast cancer, which is the kind that I had, all three of them were like, "We support you in what you want to choose." But like it was, to not, embrace everything here. And so, just to kind of set the tone of how scary and dire it was, to have to get behind putting toxic drugs in my system, to, surgeries, to the unknown. And so, once I consciously chose it and had my team together and then went through the different treatments, that was actually the easy part, believe it or not, because I could get my mind behind it. I know the power of the mind, of the spirit. I sat there during chemo and just visualized light coming through and bypassing everything else that it needed to. Surgeries, whatever. It was after that where there was no more treatment, and then the cumulative side effects of everything came in that really were debilitating in every sense of the word. I'm very sensitive, and it was like death in every way. And I'm just painting the picture of that first year because it was worse after chemo, and then the side effects of the chemo brain, which was like I've shared before, I felt like I had a stroke. Not that I know what a
Mm.
stroke feels like, but like that's how bad it was. And when I could just lay there and breathe, and then there was a breast cancer organization that was leading a breathwork in the way that I teach it now, but I didn't know anything about that. And so when I started to, from that lifeless, dead state and depressed and anxious, doing all the healing treatments now, because I'm getting the chemo out of my system, I'm doing all the healing treatments to now detox and stuff. So like I'm checking off all the boxes, but there was still like no life, no essence. And it was then my breath, in this particular breath, that started to bring things back online, that started to help me tap into all the things I wasn't feeling. And then I started to see patterns, and I started to have a deeper awareness, because when you utilize the breath in that way, it's not like you're reliving these old traumas. It's more like this light of divinity is shining and then helping you see from a different lens, help you feel it and breathe it out, and then you're lighter and you're feeling more alive. Does that make sense?
Okay. Of course, Tina, many people that do this kind of work, whether it's breath work, spiritual work, and so on, I still continue to see, especially when they've come to my community, and they might have been already in a 5, 10, 15, 20 plus year journey. I've had people who are like pastors and people who are involved in organized different kinds of religion and so on be part of our community, which is amazing. And even some of these people, we recently had somebody in the cycle that you were in, previous to this cycle we're on right now, in his 80s. And somebody who was in California and he's a pastor in a church and so on. And I remember him saying that this had completely even changed his whole experience of being a pastor and in his spiritual experience and work. Can you speak to what starts to happen when you start to incorporate the aspect of feeling the body again with everything else you're doing? Because if there has been somebody who has really tapped into tremendous, tremendous power in our community, without a doubt, you're one of those people. And I would love to invite you to share some of that because some people may be listening to you and really, in hearing you, that may give them license to really go into those places and experience to some degree what you have, which is so powerful, healing, transformative, and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. W- when I first started to discover breath work, it was my school, Alchemy of Breath, that had this program that was not only just breath work, it was going back to, the body archive, or, what you would call the SOMAP, right? Going back in to meet yourself there. And it's this, beautiful program that I was, immersed in. Then alongside Dr. Kim's Embracing Health program, that provided another framework as well. And when my life was my full-time job, because it was, I just really dedicated every day to going inside and breathing and feeling. And it sounds so scary to the mind, or the part of us that might resist it or kind of just do it a little, but the deep commitment to just go in and really reunite with all the little Tinas that throughout my life
Mm,
I either tucked away. And that's the thing too, with the breath and just with presence and not making anything right or wrong by just going in to meet yourself there, which is how I always say it. It's really like a homecoming. And then I developed such a compassion because I saw all former, like even just like the little girl Tina's that every time that she felt less than, she felt like not enough. Every time that she was, made fun of or bullied, like all of that was so much closure throughout my life, that all that closure by me meeting myself there and breathing, it was giving her space to feel again,
mm,
letting me love her, letting me say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened back then. I'm here now."
mm.
And so and like repeat, 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 like, and I didn't realize the that all that closure could potentially have led to the breast cancer. And so it made sense of, wow, I also had bad posture because I was so tall. I was like this, hunched over as a little girl, hiding in clothing. So interesting that now it's like, no, let me open my, the breast chest area. It's like, so there's so many little nuances, not to scare anyone. For me, it's like enlightening because through something so dark, by meeting myself there with a willingness to keep loving whatever arises, breathing into it, and the big component, making none of it wrong,
Mhm.
is what to this day continues to help me uncover more little parts of me, or even teenage Tina, or it could even be, any version of when I closed. And so there's just such tremendous power that, like I know Dr. Kim says, like moving the mountain, like it moves a little feeling, a little willingness to go inside and breathe moves everything, you know?
I like to think about these little moments of, in the language of Dr. Kim and her community of moving the mountain as lengthening the lever.
Yes.
You see, Alchimedes would say, give me a lever that is long enough and I'll be able to move the world, right? Every time that we go into these places, that we start to have a means, a method, a way to actually do so, you lengthen the stick. And therefore, it becomes easier and easier to move whatever is on the other end. And whatever is on the other end is usually, it's us. Um, and this is a really powerful concept. What I discovered along the way through, and I've shared this story before in my community, the concept of the SOMAP, which is essentially the physical representation of the feelings and the emotions anatomically in your body, right? I mean, we have a, for example, we're just going to use this one here, and this is the female gender sort of version of the SOMAP. Um, Essentially, I didn't have anything prior to that download through meditation, and that's why I like to say that I didn't invent this. This is all of these things that really are in the intelligence of the universe, the collective. They're all floating around us, and when our awareness changes, things come through, and that's, in my experience, what I would like to say. It's something gets channeled, something comes in, the proverbial whisper in the ear, but there was nobody next to me. And that's the reason why I say I didn't invent this. I just became aware of it through meditation. And some years back, what the biggest discovery was when this started to come in, I was really skeptical. But what became apparent is that, in fact, as I was guided through that message, and I needed to, my left brain needed to actually test it to see, is this real or am I just hallucinating here? Is that every single human being, as I've been able to prove it over and over and over again through the generosity of people in the community and people who've gone through my experiential courses, is that all of us have our own fingerprinting, if you will. There's a pattern that is very specific to us for certain emotions, for all emotions. I like to give the example of myself. If I'm feeling anger or angry, if I'm feeling contraction, something that is just a really tough experience for me, I will feel the sensation of somebody just clawing a really strong hand over the left part of my chest as though they were trying to grab my heart. And if it's really strong enough, it can actually run to the left aspect of my neck. And what I started to figure was that there was a location for every single one of these emotions that I was experiencing. And the more that I put that to test with other people, it's the same thing over and over. But the massive discovery, the bigger one, besides that, and even bigger than that, was the fact that we have been living from here, from the head, from the neck up. We've been living in our brains. And that brought me back to contemplating my 30 plus years of being in medicine and examining how I was practicing medicine, how I was dealing with people when I would operate on them. When I was dealing with patient cancers, I did a lot of experimental procedures that were novel, that were new, and still having this disconnection with ever incorporating into the conversations the aspect of the feeling body. The moment that I discovered that and that was given to me, I started to have a completely different relationship with the human experience. And I started to see the repetitive nature of how that happens for people, for humans. And then I started to see the healing that gets unleashed, the transformation, the breakthroughs that happen when we start to consciously connect with what we're feeling and where is it in our body. And that started to unleash true physical healing. Chronic illnesses really going away, emotional distress going away, different kinds of stress going away. Can you speak to that, Tina? Because not only from your personal perspective, there has been in my estimation, what I consider a massive acceleration in who you are right now, but also you have been an incredibly generous contributor to other people's healing through you knowing how to hold the space for yourself, for what's coming up for you, and sharing it from that place. your massive generosity has been a healing power in my community, in your community. And I would love for you, if you don't mind, to share some of that, because I think I know that it brings such degree of hope for all of us who start to get exposed to this, for what's possible that we have not even been able to tap into as a resource for experiencing breakthroughs, healing, transformation, betterment of our lives, betterment of the relationships with our significant others, family members, and so on. And we've seen it all. So, but I would love to hear from somebody else if they don't think, well, this is Mario. Of course he's going to say that. But no, it's beyond that.
Yeah, and I always say I am a testament to what is possible because my situation, my diagnosis, all of that was so dark and grim and extreme and intense that I remember coming out of it with extreme PTSD and literally days, weeks, months thinking I'll never live the same way again because I will always wonder if the cancer will return. And so, like, so to just again illustrate, like, there was no question, like, it was not possible in that mind. And through the practice of, breath, Kim's program, and then even coming into working with you, like, it's not there anymore. Like, it is not there, which is huge. And what's fascinating to me, even to this day, is obviously I've done the inner work to get there. But what I am doing is really just not even what I'm doing, it's who I'm being. I am
Yes.
showing up to be authentic, to be true, to be vulnerable, and share things that my mind is like, you can't share that. What will people think? Like, and yet I share it anyway. And that's the healing because I'm feeling it. I'm letting it be seen. And if I bring it back to little Tina, there was so much shame and guilt for just being, and so I've had to breathe into all that shame and guilt. And if we don't breathe into it, then it stays there. If I don't shine a light on it and reveal it, then it stays there. So, yeah, is it scary? Yeah. Is there still resistance in me sometimes? Like, do I want to share that? And when I share it, I have quantum leaps and shifts. Whereas before it took a little bit more time, now it's exponential. It's just like when I'm on the sixth cycle of GL28,
You are. Yep.
and you called it. Even when you called it, I think probably in the third cycle, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I believe now. Like, unquestionably now, it's, yeah, it can be as simple as coming into the body, presencing the body, feeling, breathing into it. And then, if you are really courageous, sharing it to someone in a safe space, because then it doesn't have control over you anymore. Then who's in the driver's seat? Right? Either the pain, the shame, the grief's in the driver's seat, running in the background, or when we are courageous enough to meet it and just be present with it. I think that's the thing. I didn't realize how the willingness to just be with it. No expectation, not trying to manage it, fix it, and not even trying to have it go away. And probably the most important part, loving it. And I
Yes.
like to say loving her because that makes it real personal for me because it's me. I get to love her in her mess. I love her in her shame, in her grief, in her not enoughness because it's all me. And when I breathe it, I can move it. Yeah.
So beautiful and so profound. That's exactly what happens. You see, when people come into the community and they've heard about the Gratitude Launchpad, the 28-day Gratitude Launchpad, or GL28, for those of you who are not acquainted with this program that I'm referring to that we have, well, people say, okay, I do have a gratitude practice. I say thank you a lot and all of these things, and I love that, right? But what I discovered before doing all of this, and as we're recording this, and having this conversation, I'm on my 45th cycle, uninterrupted. And please, those of you that don't know, GL28, every cycle is 28 days, so that's basically 28 days of uninterrupted practicing all of the things that I share with the community and the participants. It is truly remarkable because we go from this unintentional, superficial world of politeness
Yes.
to truly an intentionally examined world of who am I being, moment to moment. And while that may seem complicated or over analytical, it's not because it's not from the mind.
Right.
There's no analysis from the mind. It's all about feeling through the body. You see, Tina, one of the things that I like to say in my community, those who've heard me before, is that we are human beings. We're the most sophisticated radar that we know in the universe until some other life form comes here and we see a different way of being. We're covered with nerve endings. And now it's kind of like the doctor and me speaking about this. We're just covered in nerve endings. And those nerve endings have many functions, but one of them is to feel, to inform the brain ultimately of what is being felt. But we're relying most of the time, almost 100% of the people on the planet, on the brain. And we revere it. You know, you're such a genius. The IQ is so high. This person is brilliant, right? The brain has contributed tremendously to the progress of human beings up to this 21st century we're in now. But we have either forgotten or neglected, or a combination thereof, or other things. We have dismissed the power of the body and the power of the feeling body. And that is a dramatic shift that is really speaking to what you're saying, Tina, of how it's not about just embracing the great moments and, you know, let's celebrate that I just ran a mile today in 4.5 minutes. Wow, that's incredible. But the day that I ran it in 6.5 minutes, then I'm not going to celebrate that because I'm a loser. What a poor run I had this morning, right? It's like this body of mine sucks. Just to give a funny example, but no,
Yeah.
we don't celebrate those emotions or feelings that the collective is vested in assigning negative connotations to them,
Yeah.
whether it's shame, whether it's guilt, I'm a liar, I'm embarrassed, whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
now we spend a huge amount of energy, physical, emotional, energetic, spiritual, in building moats and walls to not even go into that room of the house. It's kind of like every house has that room that is kind of like the messy one. You know, in my house, it's
True.
like it's the luggage room, right? It's like every time that my wife says, "Hey, I need a piece of luggage because we're going traveling. Can you go and grab me one?" In the background, I hear the ta 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 ta. This music, the ominous moment music comes like, will I be just avalanche by like 10 pieces of luggage that will jump out of the door and just like bury me like, like snow, right? It's like every house has that for the most part. And the house of us has rooms that are like the luggage room in my house.
Yeah.
We'll do anything to avoid going there if we can.
Right. Most of us weren't, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying most of us weren't brought up to that it's okay to feel those things, you know? So it's not
Yes.
anybody's fault. It's just we didn't know that it was okay.
That's right. And you bring in a really strong point about, not adjudicating fault to somebody, right?
Right.
In this conversation, I'm not saying, well, your dad this to you, or my dad this to me, or my wife this. And it's like, no, one of the biggest distinctions of what we do in the community here in the Life Partner community, and you know it as a mentee of mine, we never really go into a story to try to figure out who we're gonna pin the blame, just like the tail and the donkey.
Yeah.
No, I invested in wanting to go into experiencing what's here for me, what's in me. That is the massive gift. That luggage room is in me. It's not in somebody else's house. I want to
Right.
dress it. I want to go and meet it, right?
Yeah.
And that is the premise of a lot of the things that we do, as you know. Tina, where were you? Let's just talk a little bit more about GL28 and what happened for you. Now you're in your sixth cycle currently. Where were you before you started doing the 28-day gratitude launchpad? Where would you
Um,
put yourself?
that's a good question. I was definitely in a good space. I was probably one of those people too. Like I did my gratitude. I did the list. I have done the magic, I've the book itself a few times, and I would always get something out of it. And yet there was always still a little something missing. And so initially when I came on too, I was like, well, this could be cool, like in a group. I'm open to this. But I kind of do this, because again, like the mind has all of this stuff based on its past. And I feel too, depending on your mind, like it can already kind of create barriers because that's the conditioning. And though knowing to be open as I started to even the first cycle go through it because of the feeling component, because of the body. Now, and I had had years of being with Alchemy of Breath and being in Kim's program of really having an understanding. So then coming to you, you take it even deeper. And so that was where I started to really feel and experience shifts that were so fast in a short time.
Mhm. That's profound. And Tina, that really speaks to this aspect of change and transformation being something that is possible to experience it in an instant. I have talked about this in prior episodes and so on, where many people come to the conclusion that people don't change and things don't change and so on. Meanwhile, we're surrounded by evidence of change. Uh, However, there's something that is particularly dramatic in our relationship to that statement, which takes place the moment that we are the recipients of the change. When we get to experience, okay, hold on, something did really change in me. And then that starts to accelerate this willingness and disposition to do more of that and to go into these places. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, when you said the word receive, that I just so felt something so huge because again, mind versus heart, like I've learned to receive each moment and let go of meaning. The mind wants to make it mean all these things, and it doesn't mean anything. And so when I can show up and feel disappointment, fear, maybe something didn't go my way, and let myself feel it and receive that moment fully, there's magic in that. And it doesn't seem magical to the mind. So what I'm continuing to realize is the mind has this agenda and it wants to kind of keep us there. And it wants to shove out something so simple because we hear gratitude healing equals feeling. I'm gonna wait, gratitude feeling equals healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like, yeah, been there, done that. And it seems like just opening up and being vulnerable and receiving the moment doesn't seem like it's enough. But when you do it, it changes everything. And I feel too that it's also being in a beautiful group is so sacred because there's someone on the other end that you are really aligning with their share. So I know for me, I have felt less alone. Sometimes I'm amazed, like I'm sharing and it feels so scary to be vulnerable. And then someone else says, that's what I needed to hear today. And they're in tears. Or they share and I'm listening to their share as if it's my mirror because we're finally communicating the stuff that's in the suitcase room, right? Or the basement. And so by being there and revealing that, it's like, wow, I feel that too. And then something really magical happens.
No question. It magical, it really is. And you know, when I speak in the community about magic or miracles, I refer to it in the context of things that our senses are perceiving that our brain cannot explain from what it knows. But our senses, which are so powerful, are completely convinced that they're witnessing something that is real for them. And that creates a lot of confusion, right? I mean, we've seen it in the community when people start to have these things and things start to really change dramatically and exponentially and super, super quick. And then for somebody to say, I experienced this for 15 years and now suddenly I wake up this morning after what I processed and it's not there anymore. Whether it's arthritis, whether it's, feeling depressed, having symptoms of depression, physical aches and pains. And you witnessed that a lot during, our last cycle. I mean, you've been doing multiple cycles, so you've seen a lot. And it's really incredibly powerful to witness that, to celebrate that. Dina, you mentioned something about the safety aspect of community. One of the things that I experienced over more than 30 years of being in the mind body medicine space, in the personal development industry, in the expert industry, and so on, and having done so many other people's programs and deliver programs of my own over the past 15 years, is the fact that I really believe that this sense of being safe, the privacy of things, the intimacy can really lead to people experiencing healing, right?
Yeah.
Transformation and so on, which imposes, in some regards, a tremendous challenge for people like you and I who serve others virtually in some of the experiences. Some of the things you do are also in person, like your breath workshops and so on. But then there is an element that is virtual, like we're recording this in different parts of the country here in the United States where we live. So as I was going through the creation of the different experiences that I offer and taking the feedback from community members, it became very evident to me through all of those things I've described that this aspect of creating a safe space where there is a true judgment-free zone, where there is a tremendous sense of love and compassion, as cliche as I know that sounds, that those elements, those ingredients were at that time essential and undeniably are essential and will continue to be essential for those people that don't have necessarily the same degree of courage, disposition to go into these areas of their lives and talk about them to the point where they transcend any fear that may be there and then have the Tina Marie experience of like, no matter what the case may be, where I may be, I'm speaking from a place of truth and I don't get to experience that degree of fear or it's not there at all, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Those things were really important to me, but throughout the cycles, which you've been able to be part of and contribute inside of the groups, I think that we've been able to honor that request. And now ultimately, we started a new community called the Alive Community Membership Site, which is not social media based. It's inside of a platform called Circle. So there's no, to the best of what we can do in this very moment as we're having this conversation, there's nothing that can really come from the outside to interrupt or disrupt the privacy of the container. Can you speak to how you experience that? And because this is something that many people fear. It's like, who am I to actually go into a group and start posting about my problems as they see it or my challenges and so on and reveal myself to such a degree? I don't want to do that. That's going to be, everybody's going to see it.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and that's a natural fear. But what's so beautiful, especially now that it's in circle, there is something that I know that I can feel. I can feel the difference of it being more sacred, more protected, but more important, it's not really necessarily the platform as much as it is the people,
Yes.
the space that you hold, the authenticity and vulnerability of the people that are within the circle that are there. And when you even just step foot, and even just if it's a little share, or it's even your team. Oh my gosh, your team is amazing too, to show up and be there to support. And it's not even, that's the thing that I'm mind blown too from being in a lot of circles. Not to judge others, but in yours, even your team, it's not just a little like there's a whole reflective listening where the you're really being seen and received and held, and that's just amazing. And it's right off the, it's right when you get into the community too, so it's not like it's anything that takes time because it's so authentic.
Thank you so much for that. That's, it's true. And I am so blessed and honored to have the teammates that I have. We really co-create these experiences. And to your point, everybody who joins the community and is part of these things is really contributing to that feeling. Everybody wants to have that, so they are protecting it to such degree and really holding it sacred so that everybody
Yes.
can have their experience with one another and independent of one another. And I think that's something really special. Tina, in this kind of work, one of the most beautiful things that I witness is to see what happens after somebody goes through an experiential course like GL28. Because I have done many, many, many programs, read many, many, many books, gone to, the different retreats and paid high investment points for them. But then you go back to your more mundane sort of daily living and things kind of seem to fall off, right?
Mhm.
Um, the feedback that we continue to receive in the team and from the community is that this continues to expand beyond just the completion of the experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're an outlier like some other community members are because you saw the value of it and you've continued to be vested in it. And your life, obviously, as you have shared, continues to expand exponentially daily. And that's not an exaggeration.
Mm-mm.
Can you speak to that and the fact that this work doesn't end because it's different from any other things that most people do when they go to a course, let's say?
Yeah, it's because it's really a practice. It's a daily practice that, again, coming back to the mind versus body or mind versus heart, when you really learn to come home to your body and feel, you light up inside. You can't forget that. And because there is such a shift in the 28 days, I mean, you can try to go back into your mind and do, but there's something that's forever changed. And so whether you take a little break and then tend to come back, it's an awakening on such a deep level, because it is, like I said earlier, that missing piece. Your essence is always calling you back inside. Your heart, your purity, that, God, divinity in you is always calling you inside. And I feel that in this particular practice, it's not something that you can completely shut out anymore. It'll be a voice that is calling you, which is a good thing.
It is.
Right. And I think that's why those that even in to that take that and keep up some kind of practice, whether it's staying with us in the actual course or doing it on their own, it's forever like an awakening.
It is. It really is. And for all of you who may be joining us now here in this new episode of Alive Partner TV, in our very special Human Power series, we have been in conversation today with my dear friend and very esteemed community member of the Alive Partner community, Miss Tina Marie Bertoli. And she's been sharing tremendous, tremendous insights, pearls, and golden nuggets of wisdom not only about what we do in our community, but her life experience, which is even of greater importance than a course or anything like that. Really seeing another human being go through the trials and tribulations and how we can end up glowing in a very different way because of the gifts that come through that journey. Tina, one of the questions that I receive and the team receives on a regular basis is this for me? And may I invite you to speak to who is, if we're concentrating particularly on the 28-day gratitude launchpad, GL28, who would you say GL28 would be best suited for?
Well, anyone who really desires to change, meaning open up to feeling fulfilled, to living a life that is in alignment with healing, someone who is ready to open up to what their real true purpose is and what life has to offer. And I would say too, like the willingness to be open to a community that's there, that's going to support as well in accepting whatever it is that person wants to share. So I mean, yeah, I think everybody should do it, but maybe not everybody's ready for it. However, to really experience a true healing, that's what I believe this community is, and is possible in 28 days for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. Tina, you have been a proverbial no stranger to danger in terms of seeing other programs and seeing other communities. You've mentioned some of the work, obviously, here, uh, the breathwork community. Obviously, you mentioned also the American Institute of Mind Body Medicine through Dr. Kim as communities that you have been part of through your journey that have been significant in your journey. How would you say and characterize that this community and this experience has been different and impactful for you and your work as a breathwork practitioner relative to other things you've done through the years? Because you've done many things. You've traveled to other countries. You were very clear earlier that you were not attempting to put anybody's work down, and I agree with that. I think that all of those things, they enhance us in different ways, and ultimately we decide what things work best for us. I think that's a beautiful way to put it, the way you did. Uh, but what things would you say, if you were to say three things, two, three things that in your experience set this community and this work apart from some of the other things that may be complementary to what other people are doing to enhance their lives and their journeys? What would you say those things resonate deeply with you?
Yeah, it's going to sound dramatic, and it is. Again, like you said, I'm not like all the other modalities are beautiful. It got me to where I am now. I've done a ton of different healing modalities, and again, beautiful. Even the whole aspect of spirituality, praying, beautiful. The difference now through my cancer journey and through breathwork, Dr. Kim, and you and your work, the reason that I'm saying dramatic is I truly believe that until we come into the body and feel everything, there cannot be that true abundance, that true fulfillment, that true purpose. It's not possible because we're human beings, right? Not human doings, not to sound cliche, but we're living in a world that's all about doing, and even the spiritual aspects of things, because I was there for 2 decades. And it's again, not to make it wrong, there isn't an awareness on a lot on a consciousness level that you're doing these beautiful meditations, but you're not walking the talk. You're not embodying and practicing the principles. So it's beautiful to say to say the concept. If you haven't practiced it, if you haven't like gone in to meet yourself there, then it's literally just that, a concept. And so you can live a good life, and that's great. Again, not judging it, but then it depends on what are you here for? What do you desire? And then it's how much can you open to receive what life has for you? And how willing are you to meet yourself and feel it all? And you're so inspiring with that because you're always like, I want to feel everything fully. And I remember, there was a time I didn't want to do that because I wasn't aware of how that is the answer. And it's because that's how we meet these deeper levels of ourselves. And it's how we uncover and discover that true essence. So that's why I said I know it's dramatic, but yeah, this is the work for those who really want to thrive.
Thank you. That's really, I'm super humbled by your words. And And I resonate deeply with them because that's really what we do. You've heard me say before, and for those of you who may be watching this and have not heard me say this before, at one point in my life, there was this deep awareness that came in as I contemplated the question of what is the purpose of life, for me at least. And the message was very clear and very loud in my awareness as I meditated and contemplated that question. And the answer was, and continues to be for me, the purpose of life is to feel.
Mm.
The purpose of life is to feel. Reason why you said Tina, because you've heard me say that I want to feel it all. I've come to a point that I realize that me neglecting my life's desire to feel what's here for me is a way of depriving myself from what's really possible for me.
So true.
And the more my willingness to meet those areas of me that I am actively disregarding, rejecting, not wanting to go into, the more I suffer because I decelerate myself in my journey. And yes, I embrace a journey exactly as it is, but when you have the awareness that you're doing it, when it's a conscious act, it's very different from being in autopilot and not knowing that you're doing it. So the moment that there's the awareness that I am actively investing energy to not go into that luggage room that we talk about, it's not going to go away.
Right.
There is a big distinction between the conscious act of neglecting what's necessary in this moment from unconscious living, where I'm not even aware that there is such room in my life that insofar as I can get myself to it, I'll be able to transcend other things that are linked to what's contained within that room. So it's unavoidable to become conscious about those things that life is calling you to meet. And you simply try to destine some energy sources to actually not do what's right in that moment, which is to meet them. And the moment that I do that and I invite myself, I am left truly with no option but to feel them and meet them because they're not going to go away. And now I'm aware that they're there.
Right.
It's kind of living a fraudulent life
Mm.
and you know it, right? And then if I can muster the energy or get a community behind me, which is the beauty of what we've done in Life Partner and our courses, to hold a space for me to be witnessed by other human beings, reveal the darkest places of me, the most painful things that I'm experiencing of me, within me, the quicker I can transcend them and get the support to be able to meet them and heal them, transform them, break through them, whatever word is suitable for a conversation or inner conversation. And that is a big deal. So the purpose of life, as far as this moment goes and my awareness is for me, and I invite others to contemplate it and consider is to feel. And when I say feel, I mean to feel everything that comes up. Tina, you've been extremely generous with your time. As we're coming to an end in this amazing conversation, um, are there any parting thoughts that you would like to share that are coming from your heart that you would like to enhance the audience with from your very personal and profound experiences that you want to share? Whatever is here that is coming to your awareness.
Yeah, I would just say that I truly do know how it feels to be in that state of despair, of helplessness, of not knowing how to let go, of trying to learn how to surrender. And you hear all these things like surrender, trust, let go. And then there's this other part of you that wants to just like curse or be like, F that, you know. So I want to just say, I know what that's like. I have been there. And if there's even just a little bit of you that is willing to open up to letting go, of surrendering, and even just asking, you know, show me how to trust. Like it's just that willingness. The willingness is enough.
Yes.
The willingness is enough. And to this day, it is still my go to. And I ask, How can I open up to more surrender and trust today? Show me how to love more unconditionally. And when we do feel in the capacity that you're saying, that purpose of feeling, um, it's so much more continues to be revealed.
Amazing. That's exactly right. You know, one of the things that I feel very strongly about along the lines of what you were saying is this aspect that healing, transformation, experiencing milestones in your life, breakthroughs, it really has to be embraced as a team sport.
I was going to say that before. Community is essential.
We have to start. I personally have not heard anybody in our space come out and say healing, transformation, spiritual work, breakthroughs is, must be, has to be a team sport.
Yeah.
Now, the caveat is we get to choose who is in our team. That's part one. Part two, we get to choose which team we want to be part of, which is to say, to your words, Tina, what community you want to be part of, what community you feel compelled to contribute to, what community are you open and receptive to receive from, so you can have your healing experience. It's a big takeaway from this conversation that I want to share. Healing is a team sport. Breakthroughs is a team sport. Transformation is a team sport. And I say this, and I know you're aligned with this because you are a community builder too. And you're so vested in your community and giving and giving and giving. So important that anybody who is really listening to this to start embracing that slogan. Healing is a team sport. And the more we embrace that and we recognize that this is not a solo journey, that in this day and age, there's no reason why you should be going at it alone, the quicker you'll experience things like what Tina has been sharing, which have been profound today. You have been watching a Life Partner TV here with your host, Dr. Mario Torres-Leon, in another amazing, amazing edition of HPS Human Power Series with my amazing friend, esteemed member of the Life Partner community and mentee of mine in the Heart to Heart program, mentorship program, Tina Marie Bertoli. I sincerely wish that this has been of incredible value for you. I can express my deep, heartfelt generosity, appreciation for Tina's generosity in today's rendition of this show. Tina, thank you so much for everything you do in the community. Thank you for all the really heartfelt, sincere, authentic, showing up 1,000%, no matter what's coming up every day for your life, for the people that you interact in our community, for your own community in breath work, and all the people that you're serving through the things that you do, also with your partner, Billy. I am profoundly touched by that. You have a home here. Can you please share with the community how can they find you? Because I'm aware that every time you speak, there's a lot of people that resonate with you and they want to know where are you, where can they find you? And I am so glad to provide access to people finding you.
Yeah, my Instagram handle is just Tina Marie 444. That's a really good place because I post there almost every day. YouTube, I think it's Angel Tina Marie. I'm trying to post there more. And then I have a website that I'm trying to revamp to be the newer Tina right now, but it's just tinaandbilly.com. And so it's some of our work together, and then there's my section and his section, but it's a good place to
And
kind of look
people
at.
can they can also find you on Facebook too, right, Tina?
Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot. Facebook, I think, is Angel Tina Marie too.
Awesome. So you'll be able to see right below the fold here the different links for Tina. I strongly encourage you to reach out to her if what you have heard today has resonated at a deep level with you. Tina is an absolute giver. I have plenty of experience to actually say that from the most honest place of my body. and she really cares about people having these experiences. And one thing that is really remarkable about Tina is this aspect that many people who are teachers, they don't let the world see them. And I really think that that's a tremendous disservice to the work that some of these people who are very powerful in their work do. I want to be relating to human beings, so people who are willing to really go to the depth of their own journey and share it without shame and embarrassment, because that is healing power in itself. Super powerful. Tina is not one of those people that hides behind the I am a teacher of this and I have so much experience. No, she is human first. That is rare to find, and it's worth following, it's worth listening to, it's worth going to some of the workshops that she has to offer, because that is something that transmutes whatever you may be going through. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Tina. And lastly, as I like to say every single time that I have the pleasure of coming to a closing moment here in Alive Partner TV, if this has resonated with you in a deep way, not just follow or like us or leave a comment, which we always welcome and I read everything and I am so appreciative for, but ultimately share it with somebody that you care for or you love in your life. If this conversation with Tina has been something transformative for you, you may be the catalyst of change who makes somebody else's life better, because you've shared this content with them. You are the one who actually gets to close that gap and make somebody's life better. So if that is the case, please be generous as well. Share it with those people in your life and be the catalyst of change for everybody's life to be better. Until next time, I am Dr. Mario Torres-Leon here in Life Partner TV. I sincerely hope you have an amazing rest of the week. So long.